Hey guys, Rhino here, otherwise known as AoE Only for the Win, and I'm here to bring you a tutorial video on the 150 mob pull in Sunken Temple, finally closing out the Sunken Temple saga with the epitome of RNG based boosts. So this one is an absolute pain in the butt to learn. Once you learn it, it's still not great because there's a lot of RNG involved, and so there's a lot of frustration as a result. The way that I'm setting up this video to be the most informative for you guys is I'm going to quickly go through a 13 to 15 minute run, talking through just the quick bullet point details of what you need to do to get the run done. And then I'm going to have a second section that is going to be, I'm going to restart the run and I'm going to give you all the tips and tricks that I've learned along the way to help you be more successful with this run. So this is going to be a pretty long video, but the crux of what you need is going to be right at the beginning, and then the second half is, or probably more than second half, is going to be just going through the nitty-gritty details to really make sure that we can hone in on exactly what you guys need to know in order to be successful at this. I'm hoping to graduate from this run and go on to ZG next, possibly some other runs that I want to learn, but I've finally been able to really hone down and make this run more doable for myself on a consistent basis. And I also want to preface this by letting you guys know that I wanted to record a run specifically that was not a great run. So this run, from beginning to end, I made a lot of little mistakes. There was also RNG that was not on my side. I still was successful, and there's a nice little surprise at the end that makes me at least happy, but is worth including in the video. So let's get into it here. I'm going to start off by showing you guys my gear and my talents. Your gear, you don't need anything special other than you're going to absolutely need nature resistance. I have 115 nature resistance unbuffed, including my Necropile set. I recommend somewhere around 100 plus is going to be beneficial for you, and when I have my mage armor on, I have even more than that. Going through talents, it's your standard boost talents. There's nothing really special about this run in particular, so I'm just going to leave my talents up here really quickly, and you can copy them if you want, or you can modify them how you wish. It's not really an exact science. For buffs, you're going to want Ice Armor, Arcane Intellect, and Dampen Magic, and then I use Nature Protection Potions. Highly recommend it. You're also going to see me refreshing them through the run. I also have Mighty Troll's Blood Potion given to me by one of my viewers. Check out my stream if you want. AoE Only for the Win, link down below. Mana potions are helpful, health potions are helpful, but I usually don't need to use them. They're mainly just there to help if they need to. One thing to note here that I'm showing you guys is this is where, if you're boosting somebody, this is where you want them to stand. So this is my hunter that I'm boosting, and you really want them to stand in one of these two corners. Highly recommend it. If they're a lower level, you probably want them more in this corner here, simply because as the mobs run through this area, they're a little bit less likely to pull if they're here versus here. But any character that you're boosting under level 40, you want to make sure to check on them after you run through here and get to the first reset spot, because it's very likely, or decently likely, that a mob pulled onto them and can cause issues that can kill them pretty early on. So it's a pain in the butt, but this is the safest spot that I've found. You want to make sure you have your food, water, all your gems up. I have bandages, and I also have a macro to mark mobs, so I mark this first mob here. I'm going to do my ice barrier, and then I'm going to regen my mana. Do a Frost Nova on this first pack. Check the stairs. If the pack is coming up the stairs down below, you want to do a rank 1 Blizzard to pull them really quickly. I got lucky that the pack was on the stairs here. Also, it was 2 casters, so just Frost Nova them, keep going from there, or sorry, Cone of Cold them, keep going from there, and then you're going to blink through this pack here and run up the stairs. Once you're at the top of the stairs, you're going to turn around and prep a rank 1 Blizzard to pull. You're going to listen for the mobs to pull from the pack that's running up the stairs. Once they pull, I do a rank 1 Blizzard right then, and I wait until the skull gets hit by the rank 1 Blizzard. Continuing onward, I jump to the left of this group, doing a rank 1 Arcane Explosion, and then I jump to the left of this group and I do a rank 1 Frost Nova. Make sure to jump Nova when you do that, blink on ahead, turn around, and I prep a rank 1 Blizzard. Here I'm going to do a rank 1 Blizzard. Here you can also do 2 rank 1 Blizzards if you want, in order to really time and make sure that you have your blink and Frost Nova back when you're moving on, but I only needed 1, so I blinked through. You can turn around and do a Blizzard here if you want, or you can continue onward. It's more risky to continue onward, but I'm showing you guys kind of the safer method to do this. When I'm doing these runs by myself, I just run through. I don't stop this often. Frost Nova this long group here. You're going to continue on and blink through this next group. Normally, I would turn around and Blizzard there to give myself more time, but unfortunately, I had bad RNG and pulled the group, and so I had to continue onward. I would blink through this group again, but unfortunately, I can't, so I kind of cold them and continue onward. A lot of this run is about improvising because not everything goes perfectly. In fact, it rarely goes perfectly when you're doing this run here. I'm going to run through this group here. I just body pull them. You can kind of cold them if you need, but you do not want to Frost Nova them. You want to save the Frost Novas for the big groups like this, and then continue onward. I'm going to run to the right of this group. This is the second to last group, and then I'm going to blink through this last group here. Turn around and do a rank 1 Blizzard. It's important to do Blizzards because you want to make sure that you're grouping them up as much as possible. Unfortunately, I had a bit of a lag spike here, and so I missed the first mob. That was on me. Well, that was more on my internet. You'll notice I'm lagging here a bit. It's going to recover, which is good. But you're going to want to do rank 1 Blizzards here to really group this up. Otherwise, they're going to be able to hit you when you're running down the stairs, and you can lose your shield, you can get dazed, or you can die very easily if you don't get them with pretty consistent Blizzards. If there's a melee mob in this group here, I do a Cone of Cold. If there's not, then I do a rank 1 Arcane Explosion, blink down the stairs, and I do a rank 1 Blizzard here at the top of the stairs. Again, this is sounds all very complicated, but trust me, once you get the hang of it, it's actually really easy to learn this part. There's just a lot of RNG involved that can be pretty frustrating. I'm going to continue on down the stairs. You're going to see me refreshing my Ice Barrier. Cone of Cold this group here. You're going to see me refreshing my Ice Barrier pretty frequently. That's really a beneficial thing. You're going to Frost Nova this group, and then blink on ahead, turn around, and Blizzard. So just kind of pay attention to when I do refresh my Ice Barrier and when I don't, because there is mana conservation, as well as you want to make sure you have your Ice Barrier on at certain times. From here, you're basically just going to blink on cooldown, as well as I'm going to be refreshing my Ice Barrier pretty frequently, because you can get hit through the stairs here if you're too far ahead, or too far behind, I guess, in either case. And so having it up is safe in case you get hit by a bunch of mobs at once. But you're going to see me, unfortunately, fail a blink here, but it's okay, it happens. And then when you get to the top of the stairs, you're going to Frost Nova this group here, and then I'm going to switch to my Mage armor, reapply my Ice Barrier. I'm going to hop up on the reset spot here, and I'm going to bandage. You want to give it a second before you bandage in case there's a caster that's casting on you. You don't have to bandage here, of course, and if your health is full, which my health is full a lot, you don't need to bandage there at all. I'm going to do a rank 1 Blizzard here while standing towards the middle of the wall, allowing casters to get up and around the corner to start casting on me. Once I feel there's a good amount, I'm going to run further to the right, jump up on the wall, and I'm basically going to juggle between on the wall and off the wall. If the grouping isn't looking great, then I'm going to do another rank 1 Blizzard, but I try not to do too many rank 1 Blizzards because I don't want to damage the mobs too much before we get to the kill phase, so there's no experience loss. Here, I'm just regenerating mana. You're going to see that I lose my Nature Protection here. Sorry, I'm going to try to go through this quick, but I want to be clear. You're going to see I lose my Nature Protection here. I do not reapply my Nature Protection potion at this point. Even if my mana is low, I let them keep hitting me because with my Nature Resistance and with my Ice Barrier, I should be fine. But I don't reapply my Nature Protection just yet because I want to make sure I have Nature Protection for a later point. This isn't conservating this isn't conservation for Nature Protection potions as a whole, but it has to do with cooldowns. Once my mana is at a point where I'm happy, I then continue onward. I'm going to switch back to my Ice Armor. And I'm going to Fire Blast this mob here, and you're also going to see me reapply my Nature Protection potion here. Then I'm going to cast on this mob the Counterspell, and then move on ahead while blinking, reapply my Dampen Magic, Frost Nova this group, and then I'm going to jump on the wall here. This is important to make sure that you push that you basically want the mobs to be further back. You don't want them to be really close to you here so you can get on ahead. It gives me a chance to refresh my Ice Barrier, and it allows me to get on ahead and do a rank 1 Blizzard here. This is really important that you do a Blizzard here. If the mobs are too spread out when you go into the square room, you have a higher likelihood of getting hexed, and if you get hexed here, you have about a 90 to 95% chance of dying. Fire Blast this mob, blink on ahead. I'm going to target the High Priest, then I'm going to body pull the Deathwalker on the left, and then once the Priest starts casting, I'm going to Counterspell. This just saves my mana barrier, or my Ice Barrier a little bit. I'm going to reapply my Ice Barrier, my mana barrier, because you have the chance of getting hit there, and you're going to want to Frost Nova at some point. I typically try to do it when I'm worried about my shield breaking. You're going to blink on ahead. This mob, I don't know why this Witch Doctor was here. The Witch Doctor had a chance to hex me there. Luckily, my nature resistance was high enough. They weren't able to get it off. And then I just continue on ahead. Here I'm going to be blinking and turning around and doing a rank 1 blizzard. You're going to want to do 2 rank 1 blizzards from the square, between the square rooms where I just left and where you summon the egg boss, which I'll point out where that is. You want to make sure to do 2 of them. There's a reason for that I'm going to explain in the latter half of the video, but trust me, you want to do 2 rank 1 blizzards before you get to where you summon the egg boss. Then I'm going to round the corner. I'm going to jump on the wall here. If your health is low, feel free to bandage. If you do bandage, be sure to jump back down and then back up on the wall to reset the timer, which I'll talk about in the second half of the video. Run around. I'm going to counterspell this mob, blink through that mob, and then I'm going to allow the social aggro to pull the 2 groups behind me. Then I'm going to Frost Nova this group. I keep checking behind me to see where the groupings are. And then I'm going to blink on ahead, and I'm going to do another rank 1 blizzard. Again, I'm going to explain this in the latter half, why this is so important, but you do want to make sure to get at least 2 in before you get to the egg boss, which is right around the corner from where I'm at. I try to do at least 3/4 of the full cast to make sure that it's grouping them up enough. This is where the egg boss is, so I ended up doing 3 rank 1 blizzards here in total after the square room, but you only need to make sure you do 2. Going to go on ahead, reapplying again my ice barrier as needed, and from here I'm basically going to blink on cooldown until I get to the mobs here at the end of the hallway. The mobs in this hallway reset if you accidentally pull them, so don't worry about that. They also don't hit terribly hard unless they thrash, so it's not a huge worry. Here I'm going to target the closest mob in the further group. I'm going to Frost Nova, switch to Mage Armor, and then counterspell that mob that I had targeted, and then immediately blink. This makes sure that I have all the mobs pulled, as well as gives me some distance. I'm going to reapply my Ice Barrier. Then I'm going to turn around, do 1 more rank 1 blizzard. This is just to help group them up a little bit more because they're pretty strung out at this point, and it will help you in the long run. Then I'm going to jump up here, and once they get close, I'm going to ice block, and I'm going to mark with a skull one of the front melee mobs, and then I'm going to mark with a square one of the back caster mobs. As soon as my ice block fades, I hop down and immediately blink, do a rank 1 blizzard to start the grouping process. So that's really important to really get them grouped before you start doing your max rank blizzards. Otherwise, they're going to be really spread out. You're going to lose a bunch of mobs. And again, this isn't a perfect run. I think I only got 130 some kills in this pull. If you time it right, you do it right, then you're really going to be getting the 150 plus, which I have gotten a few times. It's all RNG based, so it's not perfect. Here I'm going to do the regular boost that you guys are used to. Check out my other videos if you're confused about what to do with this spot. There's nothing terribly special about this. I'm doing the same thing, except for it's important to note that when my mana is lower, I stand further back because I want the caster mobs to cast on me, and then when the mobs get when my mana is more full, I stand a little bit further forward when I'm doing my max rank blizzards, just so the caster mobs come a little bit closer and they're more likely to get hit by more ticks of my max rank blizzard. So I'm going to be hopping up and down here doing max rank blizzards as often as I can. I mess up some of my clicks, so I apologize for that. But overall, this was a decent run. You'll see my kill tracker just to the left of my map. Here, unfortunately, the casters did end up hitting through my shield and canceling my blizzard. I'm going to keep reapplying my ice barrier as I do this as well, and I'm going to keep using my gems whenever I can. I got lucky clear casting here. There was... trying to think of when exactly it happened. But again, this wasn't a perfect run. And you'll find that even when you master this, there are very rarely perfect runs. There's always something that gets messed up, whether it's RNG based or whether it's you actually messing something up. Here, I had a corpse eater that was closer than I was expecting that happened to stand up because he finished eating, and so he missed a good portion of my max rank blizzard. It was unfortunate. Here, I missed the click on the backdoor blizzard, which is also unfortunate. And then here I messed up again. I did a poor click, so my blizzard was in the wrong spot. There's a bunch of mistakes in a row right there. Again, it happens even when you get good at this. I can do this run 10, 15 times in a row with no problems. I can also die 3 or 4 times in a row because of bad RNG. it happens. So here I'm doing a rank 1 Blizzard to kind of group them back up because I kind of had the grouping messed up due to the misclicking that I'd done. But because they're a little bit more grouped up, I do a max rank Blizzard. When my mana finally gets low enough where I can't do another cast, what I do is I either do a rank 1 Blizzard, or here I'm just going to Frost Nova one of the Corpse Eaters because they're being a pain in my butt. I hop up, head to the far left corner, and then I do an Evocate. At this point, my gems are back up, my potions are almost back up, I'm in a really good spot, and so hop back down, I do a rank 1 Blizzard to kind of get things grouped up. Corpse Eater being a pain in my butt again, so I do another rank 1 Blizzard. Again, you know, Corpse Eaters, they're a pain. There's not a ton you can do about them. There's good ways you can juggle them, but it's not super easy to do. And so then I continue on the run with my second half of mana, doing max rank Blizzard here, and then hopping back and forth, do another gem, and then also I mana pot here just because I have the mana pot available. It's absolutely not necessary. The mana pots drop pretty regularly from these mobs, so typically I have, you know, at least 5 of them. I just had a slew of bad luck of not getting them to drop, so I ran out here, but it's not required by any means. It's not even a full cast that the mana pots provide on a max rank Blizzard. It's just a little extra boost, so you typically can get an extra cast with your mana regeneration. Okay, here I'm going to do another max rank. I'm getting close to the end of my mana pool. I don't have a lot of the casters left casting on me, so essentially I'm not able to regen mana at this point. So I know that once I'm out of mana, I'm essentially done. You know, that's kind of the end of the pull, unless I just get a really lucky slew of clear casts, which I don't try to rely on clear casts, but in a case like this, you'll see I'm going to hop down. I'm going to try another rank 1 to fish for a clear cast. Unfortunately, I don't get it. I typically don't have great luck when it comes to the kill phase and clear casts, but I have had some where I've gotten 4 or 5 clear casts in a row. Once I give up, I head over to this reset spot I've talked about in my prior videos, and I stand here in the corner until they reset. The final kill count on this was 135 mobs, and including looting and exiting the dungeon, it ended up being just over 15 minutes. So 15-minute pull. When I do this properly, where I don't really have any issues, I can actually get the entire kill phase done without evocating or anything. I'm able to get these done in 13 minutes or less. I have gotten sub 13-minute pulls before. So you get good at this, you really start to learn it. You can get between 13 and 15-minute pulls, but a lot of it is RNG based as well as just, you know, general skill level. So go through and I loot. I get something kind of nice here, which is actually the best piece of loot I've gotten so far. It's just the Flurry Axe. So on my server, that's currently selling for about 270 gold. Who knows if it'll actually sell for that much? This just happened, so I haven't actually tried to sell it yet, but that's kind of cool. That's the nicest purple that I've gotten so far. I've gotten a few purples like Blood Razor, but it really only sells for like 30 gold. So that was really nice to see, especially on a run that had a lot of issues. So yeah, then once you're done looting, you can simply run out, tell your whoever your boosties are to run out, and reset the dungeon. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I'm gonna skip on ahead to the end here where I run out, and you're gonna see in the chat that I had 135 mobs, 16 minutes, 17 seconds. That includes running out, as well as I had some time at the beginning before I started the recording. So it really was a sub 16 minute, but probably low 15-minute run. Which is really not bad. That mob count is pretty low. I've gotten plenty that are 140, 145, 150 plus. It can be done. It just has to do with really getting good at timing things and not being unlucky with them running through your blizzard. So that's really the end of the basic tutorial. That was 19 minutes. It is pretty long, but again, I have a lot more information to cover on tips and tricks that I've really learned in the process. So we're going to start over here. If that's all you wanted, you can click away now. Be sure to comment, rate, and subscribe based on what your thoughts are on the tutorial itself. But I highly recommend sticking around and watching the second half or longer portion, because there's a lot that I've learned that makes this run easier. This is a very frustrating run, and so not doing things properly and not following these tips and tricks, you can end up dying a lot. So restarting here. Let's see. Here I'm going through the basic information Again, you know, pretty straightforward. One tip here, I like to do my ice barrier and then drink when I have low mana, so that way I have about 35 seconds or less of time on my ice barrier. What that allows me to do is it allows me to make sure to have my ice barrier at the right time, which is right around where the candle is, which I'll show here in a second. Here again, checking. It's really good to check and get that extra group if they are down below. It happens like 50% of the time. And then I'm going to want to reapply my ice barrier around this second landing here. I found that when it comes to timing the ice barrier, that's what works best. Here you're going to blink on through, so nothing super special here, but you do want to listen for when you hear the mobs pull. Typically you can hear the imps pull the social aggro here, and that's when you know the mobs are coming, and then just waiting for that, that skull to get here. As I mentioned, I did this on a little bit of a quicker pace. There's an easier way that you can do this if you're absolutely having trouble, which is what ClickVice, he is a huge inspiration for this video, talked about is the double blizz blink. And so basically what you're doing is every single time you blink on ahead, you turn and you do 2 rank 1 blizzards instead of 1 or none like I did. And what that does is it ensures your blink and it ensures your ice barrier cooldowns are fully done, so you can actually safely get through this. But it does take quite a bit of extra time. It takes some extra mana. It takes some extra nature protection potions. But it is a much safer route if you are struggling or if you're just learning. Another thing is paying attention to melee mobs. So what you'll notice here, I save my Frost Nova for the long groups, with the longer spaced out groups like this one here. I pay attention to where the melee mobs are. So these trolls and these unliving Atalai. You want to make sure that you do your Frost Nova in a way that's going to make sure to freeze them, because they're the ones who are going to be breaking your shield the most. So if, for example, this group had a caster here and the other melee mob over here, then I would save the Frost Nova for a little bit longer. But if the melee mobs happen to be on this side, then I'm going to do the Frost Nova earlier to make sure to lock them in the Frost Nova when I jump and Nova. That reduces the amount of times that I'm going to be hit while running through these groups. Blinking on ahead, it's, unfortunate that I pulled there, but not much you can do about it. And again, I'm really paying attention to where the melee mobs are. When I do a jump Cone of Cold, I try to always hit the melee mobs. Again, those are going to be the biggest pain in the butt, because they're the ones who are really hitting my shield down, versus the caster mobs, because of my nature resistance, are not as much, and then the imps don't really matter. So going on ahead, doing my rank 1 Blizzard here. This was a really unfortunate run. I can honestly get through this portion without taking a single hit pretty easily. I just wanted to make sure to... It just happened to be an unfortunate run when it came to this first portion, and I wanted to include that in the video to really, demonstrate that. A lot of tutorial videos, unfortunately, they do like a perfect run. It takes them 10 tries, and they finally get that perfect run, and I don't think that's the best way to really do a tutorial. You want to show kind of how to recover in the worst case scenario, whereas a lot of tutorials, unfortunately, don't show that. So here, pretty straightforward, just running through the mobs, doing my Blizzard. Again, the imps reset, you don't have to worry about them, they don't hit very hard. Here, again, I pay really close attention to the melee mobs, so if there's a melee mob in this group, then I Cone of Cold them. If there's only casters in this group, which happens most of the time actually, then I do an Arcane Explosion, a rank 1 Arcane Explosion to pull them. Blink down the stairs, and you want to make sure when you're on the stairs to stay towards the center of the stairs, and you want to try to refrain from jumping as you go down the stairs. It might feel like you run faster when you're jumping down the stairs, but when you're jumping, you're actually getting yourself closer to the mobs that are above you. You're more likely to get hit through the stairs, so avoid that at all costs. Okay, Here, again, I kind of mentioned this at the beginning when it comes to boosting your friends. Here you're pulling the mobs close to where your boosties are standing. So it's really important to let them know, like, hey, when I'm running through here, be sure to check your combat status, especially if you're a lower level. Once you get to like level 42 or higher, I've noticed that I don't really have that problem. They don't pull anymore. My hunter is almost level 50, and he never pulls. He's totally fine just standing there. He could stand in a less safe spot, but I like to have him there just for demonstrations for this video. Here you're going to see I get hit through the stairs. You want to stay towards the center of the stairs here as well, but you want to make sure that you're not too far ahead or too far behind. One important element here is spacing. You want to make sure that the mobs are pretty well grouped, and you want to make sure that you're not too far ahead of the group, because if you're too far ahead, then they're going to be at the perfect spot on the stairs to hit you, and that's where you can absolutely die in a matter of like a second or two without a single mob in sight. So that's why it's really important to kind of blizzard when I blizzard, especially right there at the end before I ran up the stairs, just to make sure that you are getting a good spacing between you and the mobs. Here, it's pretty simple, straightforward, a nice little Frost Nova, and mage armor to increase my resistance and my mana regeneration. And then again, if you, I highly recommend bringing bandages. Be sure to use them where you need to. I honestly, I only need to use a bandage there about 10 to 20% of the time. Here again, I mentioned this, but you want to make sure that you don't use too many rank 1 blizzards, because if you do, you will be damaging them a lot, and then at points where you don't hit them frequently, you're going to actually cause them to lose experience. Now, it's not going to be a ton, but any lost experience is lost experience, and you want to maximize the amount of experience. So I try to do 1, maybe 2 blizzards here. Not reapplying my nature protection, because it's really important that you have that for when you're going through the square room. So here I'm going to jump through. One thing to note here, you are able to hop on this ledge. So if you run into some sort of problem, let's say that your health is low, or the mobs are closer than they should be, which has happened to me. You are able to jump on this wall pretty easily, and then it's one of the spots where they're going to freeze. It allows you to get a little bit of distance. I typically try not to do that unless the mobs are really close, because I want them to be closer to me once we get to the square room. This is where I'm talking about spacing between you and the group. It's really important that you monitor that. And you don't want them super close, but it's better for them to be close than it is for them to be far away. Because if they're far away when you get to the square room, you have a much higher chance of getting hexed, which is it's an almost guaranteed death. So here I do the counter spell, and then the Frost Nova here. And then when it comes to this group, so I'm going to hop up on this wall, and I'm paying attention to this group here. Now, this is all RNG based. This group can be completely random. It can be all whelps, it can be casters, it can be melee mobs, it can be the big guys which hit really hard. You have no idea. It's completely random. But what you want to note is where the melee mobs are that are not whelps. So in this case, I believe it's just this guy, because the other one's a Wormkin, which is a caster. And so the melee mob I know is closer to the wall, which means that I don't have to worry about the far side. So when I place my rank 1 blizzard here, you're going to notice I place it really close to the wall, because the melee mob is over closer to the wall. I don't have to worry about this Wormkin over on the left, because he's just going to cast on me, and he can cast on me all he wants. Putting my rank 1 blizzard there allows them to really catch up. So my screen is tilted here because I'm trying to watch for the back of the group. I want to see the end of the group by this point, to make sure that they're going to be close enough that they're not going to be able to hex me when we get into the square room. If I don't see the end of them, then here I do a fire blast, I blink, and then I turn around and I do another rank 1 blizzard right here. If they're still really spread out, which does happen. But you don't want to do a full one. You want to do like maybe half, maybe slightly over half of a rank 1 blizzard at that point. Nothing longer, otherwise you're going to run into issues. Here, your primary issue is going to be your shield. You want to make sure that you do not get dazed here. If you get dazed here, you're going to die. Guaranteed, you're going to die, because it's impossible to recover from that point. The days last so long. So you'll notice here, my ice barrier is still on cooldown when I lose my shield, and so I actually apply my mana shield, which you don't see me do anywhere else in the pull. I do it here because I want to ensure that I do not get dazed, but then my ice barrier comes off cooldown, so we're good there. When I'm running along here, I try to hover to the left. It creates more distance between me and the casters who can hex me, and so it allows me to really try to reduce the likelihood that I do get hexed. So I hover to the left, then I run back to the right and blink forward. I got lucky that this Witch Doctor didn't hex me, although you can tell she's trying to hex me because she's just standing there and not actually casting. My nature resistance was enough to freeze it. Now, here's what I was talking about. So from this point until the egg room, or the egg boss, you want to make sure that you do a minimum of 2 rank 1 blizzards. The reason for this is, and I wish I had a map of Sunken Temple to show this, but I'll kind of show it using the mini map up here. So here's your square room, and over here, well, that's actually over here, is your, here, I'm going to skip on ahead a little bit. Over here is where the egg room is. So basically, here's the egg room. If you do not do minimum of 2 rank 1 blizzards, then some of the mobs are going to be far enough back that when you advance through this room here, these mobs are going to actually path to run and intercept you ahead when you're running to the other down the other hallway. And what that does, not only do you have mobs coming towards you, but it also pulls the other 2 groups that you're wanting to pull at the very end. This is a very high risk thing. So if it does happen, you can survive, but it's going to be a lot more high risk, and it also means the mobs are more strewn out when you get into the kill phase. When that happens, you're more likely to get hexed, you're more likely to have mobs melee you, and you're more likely to have mobs run far enough down the stairs that you're not going to be able to actually recover no matter how many rank 1 blizzards you do. It can also cause the mobs to bug out. I've had it happen where they ran down the stairs far enough to a point where they're actually able to hit me through the wall, even though they're not visible. No matter if I hop down or hop up or move to the left or right, they're able to hit me, and I've died that way too. So make sure to get 2 rank 1 blizzards off between the square room and between the egg boss. That is of vital importance. Another kind of tip here that I like to mention is when it comes to your health. So I mentioned that you can use a bandage here up on this wall, which I do probably 30% of the time. I hop up on this wall because my health just happens to be low enough to need a bandage. Be sure to watch for debuffs for dots, because there are some mobs that like to dot you with the Shadow Word Pain. If you have that, that will end your bandage, and so you kind of have to feather it, I guess is a good way to put it. In a case where I have low health and I have the dots on me, I basically hop up and down from this wall repeatedly to reset the counter. Because you have 15 seconds when you hop up on the wall before the mobs start glitching out or resetting. So I wait for that dot to run out, and then I bandage. Then you want to make sure that you hop down after you bandage and hop back up onto the wall to reset that counter. Otherwise, you're going to get mobs that reset or bug out when you do the kill phase, and you're either going to reset the dungeon or you're going to die. So it's really important that you do that. Here, I oftentimes accidentally body pull these mobs. That's okay. It happens. You're really not going to die there. The 2 places that I really normally like to blizzard is where I do them here in this portion of the video. I really like to do one here where I blink and then turn and blizzard. This seems to be a really good spot, and it's far enough back where their mobs aren't going to redirect and go around the other side, and it allows them to really start to get grouped up more before the kill phase, which is important, again, because if the mobs are too strewn out, then you're going to run into issues, and it's going to cause you more deaths for sure. And because this is so RNG based, you really want to make sure that you reduce the amount of times or the amount of problems that you're going to have. Otherwise, you are going to run into some issues. This part's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. If the mobs aren't cutting you off here, then you're usually good to go. I have never died here. I've never had an issue because these mobs are pretty easy. There's one thing that I want to mention with that, though. One thing that makes this tougher is the thrash that happens, and I don't know the science behind it. So maybe somebody out there has the science behind thrash. But essentially, if you do die, reset the dungeon. Just reset the dungeon. If you die and then you don't reset, there's a higher likelihood that some of the mobs that you pulled have thrash built up, and then when you're running through, you're more likely to die. Basically, if you die from a pull and you don't reset, it's going to make the next pull more difficult. So I always just reset in a case where that happens, even if I made it all the way to the kill phase and I get really frustrated. This rank 1 blizzard that I do right here is really important for the grouping to make sure they're not super spread out, and so it allows them to be a lot closer together, a lot more close-knit, makes it easier to do the grouping part of the phase, but also sometimes... So a couple things can happen here. One, you can have melee mobs that actually get glitched and stand up against you while you're in the ice block, and they just continually hit you and will continue to hit you after the ice block fades. Or two, you can actually have caster mobs that are further back in the group that are running past just as you exit your ice block, and they're able to hex you as they run past. They're actually more likely to because you're in close proximity to them. So it's really important to get a good grouping here to try to get all of the casters past you by the time your ice block fades. It's also really important to make sure you're not up on this ledge too long. So you don't want to jump up on the ledge while you're still waiting for the mobs to really come towards you a ways. You want to make sure they're closer to you so you spend less time on the ledge. The longer you spend on the ledge, the more likely the mobs are to either reset or glitch. So that's why it's really important to focus on that grouping. Here I like to do, as I mentioned before, I like to do the skull mark on a melee mob near the front, and I like to do a square mark on a caster mob near the back. This really allows me to keep an eye on the grouping through the walls because you're able to see those icons for a while through the walls. And so I can know if I happen to lose the casters or if I happen to lose the melee mobs further down. I try to make sure that I keep those two together. And one thing you can do on top of that to really maximize it is when you're partway through the kill phase, you can set a different one, like a moon, on a caster mob that you see further back running down the stairs while you're, doing a backdoor blizzard. And that allows you to get a third tracker on a mob that could potentially be further away. Just increases your knowledge of the grouping. Here, yeah, you want to make sure you blink, get yourself that space, get back to this spot, and allows you an easy rank 1 blizzard to really focus on grouping them up here. And you'll notice I do run over to the left. That's just to make sure the mobs stop casting on me so they stay really grouped up. If you stay to the right, they can cast on you, and this kind of breaks up the grouping a little bit. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely beneficial and a lot less of a pain in the ass to kind of hover to the left here. You'll also notice when I'm down on the ground here, I'm a little bit to the right of where I normally stood. So for the last couple runs, I was standing more on top of this middle line, and here I'm more to the right. This just has to do with line of sight for the casters, because more than the other runs, I'm wanting the casters to be able to cast on me from further back. It also gives me a little bit more space between myself and the group of mobs, because there's more mobs in the group, quite a bit more. It's easier for the group to break through, and then I get hit by a bunch of mobs all at once, versus the other pulls. There's less mobs in the grouping, so it's a little less dangerous. Anytime you see where I'm doing the kill phase and you see a bunch of mobs break through and run towards me and hit me a couple times, there's increased risk that I'm dying. And so that's why it's really important to kind of stand a little bit to the right. I sometimes play a little bit with where I stand. Sometimes I'm forward more, sometimes I'm back more. And it's really about feeling out what works out best for you and getting an understanding of how this run will work best for you, because it's different for everybody. Everybody has different reactions, different reaction timing, different reactions to RNG, so that's why that's really important here. Typically, when the pull is early on, or the kill phase is early on, I'm more likely to refresh my nature protection potion. But when I have killed off more of the casters, or I'm above like a 70 to 80 mob kill count, then I actually save the potion and I'm more likely to use a mana potion, because I have less mobs available, so less mobs casting on me. I'm less likely to get that mana regen, and I'm able to more likely get the mana directly from a mana potion to get another max rank blizzard. I also try my best to use my gems, the higher level gems, first as early on as possible, so that way their cooldown is ticking, and it essentially gives me more mana for the pull, because it's sooner that the next gem comes off cooldown and I'm able to use that one. But it's really important that you don't stay here too terribly long, because the longer you're here, the more the mobs are going to despawn that were killed first, and so usually the whelps despawn first and then starts moving backwards from there. So that's why it's really important to not spend too terribly long here, because you can get a consistent 150 plus if you're smart about it, but it's not incredibly smart because, again, those mobs are going to start despawning. So if you're here purely for experience, it might be more beneficial for you to do that, although I still would argue you're probably better off just resetting. But if you're also wanting the gold and the drops, then it's really important to try to find the right spot to call it to end the run, so that way you can ensure as much loot as possible. Also, one thing to note that is really beneficial is to have first aid, obviously for the bandages, but also for the cloth that drops. At least on my server, Dream Scythe, yeah, the auction price for the cloth that drops for the Mage Weave isn't great, and so it's not beneficial to actually auction it. And so if you're going to vendor it, there is a tangible benefit to turning it into heavy Mage Weave bandages before you vendor it. It has to do with the value that you get. So essentially, the value of one heavy Mage Weave bandage to vendor is more than the value of the two Mage Weave cloth required to make that bandage, the vendor price on those. So it's essentially, you get quite a bit more money, especially when you're doing this a lot. When I have full bags, I end up making something like 120 to 150 heavy Mage Weave bandages. That actually vendors for quite a bit more. The extra value that I get is quite tangible there. So that's one thing to absolutely keep in mind. Okay, so wrapping up here, you know, getting to 130 plus mobs. I know that I'm running low on options here, and one thing that you can do is, you'll notice the corpse eaters are spending a lot of their time eating there, regenerating their health. It's really hard to kill them unless you're able to kill them really, really quickly. At this point, I don't think I've killed one corpse eater. That's it. So what you can do is they refresh their health to full, and then they stand up, they wait a tick, and then they start walking again, or they start running again. And so you can kind of try to time that with the grouping. And so you can see, oh, if they're eating but they have lower health, then it's very possible that you could hop down and get a nice blizzard in. But if you see that they're getting closer and closer to full health, then it's sooner that they're going to stand up. And if you decide to wait, then they're going to spend more time running down the stairs, or they're going to spend more time getting a different grouping from the rest of the group. So you really have to try to time that well, and it's just something that you learn. It's just something that just comes with the experience that you get in kind of feeling out what works and what doesn't. One important thing to note here is you'll notice once I lose combat, I still stand here for a minute, and what that has to do is some of the casters will actually run right past where you drop down, like that mob that just ran out there. I was a little bit greedy here. If I had waited another second, I would have actually ran into him, and so it's better to wait another minute or so, let all the mobs despawn so you don't accidentally aggro, and then you have to wait even longer, at which point you run into the issue of basically having to reset them again, so more time passes, so more mobs despawn. So yeah, and then, looting, just try to loot as quickly as you can, because obviously some of the mobs are going to be despawning as you're looting, and so getting through the loot as fast as possible, using add-on, like the auto loot add-on, and then changing your bindings to your scroll wheel will really help to make the looting process that much faster. And that's pretty much it. That's all that I really have for tips and tricks. I hope that this was relatively informative. I hope it was beneficial for some of you guys. And if at any point you are struggling, don't hesitate to reach out to me either on YouTube or on Twitch. You can also catch me live if you follow my Twitch, twitch.tv/AOE only for the win. And you can find me when I'm live, so you can see me doing some of these runs and you can ask me questions. And so if you're having a question or you're having a problem in a certain area, like I hear a lot of people have problems in the square room. If you're having a problem in the square room, then I can absolutely, demonstrate for you what you should be doing during the stream. And so I like interacting with my viewers if you happen to stop by during one of my streams. But yeah, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, please post it in the comment section below. Other than that, guys, I hope this was informative. Let me know your thoughts. And good luck to you. I really hope you guys are mastering this, and let's move on to some more severe, more intense dungeons. Thank you guys. Have a good day. Be sure to comment, rate, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.